Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Classic Movie Rambles, where I talk about old movies that I found in my closet while cleaning. This week's movie is Ponyo, and it's a Studio Ghibli movie from 2008, and it's about 1 hour and 36 minutes long. And the movie starts with underwater and the display of the sea creatures, and there's this big sub and a wizard named Futuyama, and he's using his potions underwater to bring more life to the sea creatures, and there's this sprawling kind of combo of colors, and his daughter Ponyo looks out through a hole in the sub, and her sister kind of follows her out. And then Futuyama turns his head, and he's this over kind of protective father, and so Ponyo and her siblings kind of go back into the sub, and he doesn't see anything. But later in the story, Ponyo goes out through the sub by herself, and she leaves her siblings behind, and she goes on a big manet, which is like this big jellyfish, and the jellyfish kind of rise to the surface, and she falls asleep. And when she wakes up, she's at the top of the sea, and the intro credits roll, and it's like this hand-drawn animation, almost made by a child, and it's kind of charming. But anyway, Ponyo wakes up at the surface of the sea, and I don't think she's actually seen the sea, so this might be the first time she sees the surface of it. And she sees this big hill, and there's a house on top of the hill, and there's this little kid that goes out to play. He's called Sasuke, and he's the other main character of the story, and he goes down to the sea to play with this little toy boat. And Ponyo gets caught in a net by a trolley, and later gets stuck in a glass jar. And Sasuke sees this little fish caught in the bottle, and he thinks it's a goldfish, so he tries to get it out. He uses a rock to crush the glass, and he cuts himself on it. And what happens is that Ponyo licks his finger, his thumb, and this comes important into later because she's kind of a little bit magical. And then her mom, his mom, which is called Lisa, calls him in, tells him time to go, and they're basically going to go to work, and he's going to go to kindergarten because he's a small boy. And about this time, Futuyama, the wizard, realizes that his daughter is gone, and he goes out looking for her. So what happens is that it's kind of a funny scene. Lisa gets in her small car, and Sasuke kind of shows off the little bucket. He puts Ponyo in a bucket, and he shows it to his mom. Then Futuyama goes up on land, and for some reason he's tied to the sea because he's probably a sea wizard or something, so he can't really walk on land. So he has this kind of backpack with a pump in it, so he has like this water hose system, so he kind of puts water where he goes so he doesn't dry up or something. I don't know why. And Lisa kind of tells him, like, are you using pesticide? You know that it's really bad. And he kind of says, well, it's just water. And she thinks he's just weird, so she just drives by because they're already late to work. And then Futuyama follows them on the water. And basically what happens is that since they're late and they're in a rush, they eat the food in the car on the way to the kindergarten and work. So Sasuke has this ham and cheese sandwich, and he feeds Ponyo she just grabs the ham and eats it. And this will become important later because she's tasted the blood of Sasuke, and she has eaten human food, so she now can turn human. Maybe this is like a weird Japanese kind of cultural thing, but anyway. And then Sasuke realized that his thumb is healed. And then they arrive at the daycare center, and just next to the daycare center is where Sasuke's kindergarten is. So he goes to the kindergarten, and his mom goes to take care of her elderly folk. And Sasuke is kind of worried what his teacher might think of Ponyo, so he hides her in some bushes. And then he goes in and says hi to his friends. But he says, I know I can't play right now, and I have something important to do. And he goes out to check on Ponyo in the bushes, and she's just lying there, belly up, and she turns around, and he realizes that everything is fine. And then a little girl comes to talk to him. It's like she's called Kumiko, I think, and she asks what do you have in the bucket, and he shows her the Ponyo, and she says it is an ugly fish, and Ponyo kind of sprays her down with water, and she starts to cry, and Sasuke runs off. He runs through the fence to the elder care center, and he's trying to change the water of the bucket because fishes need fresh water, and he kind of drops Ponyo, and she goes down like the drain or like the girder grate, He picks her up and put her in the water again. And then some of the elderly folk kind of hear that someone is there, and Sasuke walks around the corner, and the elder people are out there, sitting, enjoying the weather. And he shows them the Ponyo, and they think it's a lovely little fish. She's kind of cute. And there's this one old lady, she's kind of grumpy, she's called Tuki. And she looks at it and she says it's kind of ugly. And she realizes that the fish has a human face now. Excuse me. And Ponyo gets angry and sprays her down with water. And Sasuke kind of runs down to the sea. And for some reason, maybe he's afraid. And Lisa kind of calls him in, but he doesn't answer. And Sasuke calls out to Ponyo. And Ponyo answers in human speech. And he calls her Ponyo, so he gave her the name. I think her real name is Bernhild or something. Really stupid, the wizard named her. But anyway, what happens is that the wizard uses his magic and he brings Ponyo down into the water, basically, and snatches her up. And Sasuke is kind of worried about Ponyo, so he goes after her, but he can't swim and he's about to drown. And his mom kind of realizes and where he is, and she picks him up. So what happens is that the wizard takes Ponyo home, and Lisa drives Sasuke home, and he gets ice cream, but he's not very happy about it. He's kind of sad about the whole drowning situation, I guess, and the fact that he lost a talking fish. And anyway, Lisa preps for food. And the phone rings, and it's Sasuke's dad. He's this captain on a boat, or some high-ranking officer, and he says that the point for the whole prepping of food was that he was supposed to come home this night, but he can't because something has happened. And she gets angry, and she hangs up the phone. And later, the boat that he is on kind of cruises by, and you can see from the window. And it signals them, and Sasuke kind of knows Morse code a bit, so they kind of signal. And Sasuke's dad kind of says like he was sorry he couldn't make it, and he says like, "I'm sorry, Lisa. I love you very much." And she kind of gets angry, and she kind of signals like "baka," which is the Japanese word for idiot, over and over and over again. And she kind of goes down and kind of collapses on the bed. And Sasuke kind of signal his dad, like, have a good trip and come home safe or something like that. And then he goes and comforts Lisa, and she gets happy. And then cutting to the wizard trying to feed Ponyo some food. But she doesn't want that kind of food. She wants Sasuke and ham. And she uses her magic to turn into this chicken-like creature with hands. She's trying to become more human. She uses her own magic. And the wizard tried to suppress her magic with his own. So he uses what he has, but he's not powerful enough. So he goes down and finds some stronger elixirs to kind of counter the effect of the magic. And he succeeds, and he puts her to sleep. And then he takes the powerful elixirs and put him down in this vault, kind of well kind of situation in the sub or in his home. And then later, Ponyo gets awoken or waken up by her sisters, and she uses her magic to turn back into a semi kind of human, and she also puts a hole in the artificial glass, and she floods the home, and of course the door to the vault opens, and she gets in there, and all of a sudden she's a fully grown young child. She's basically human now. And she rides the other sea creatures kind of expand, and there's this kind of magical explosion, and they ride up to the surface. And then Sasuke's dad kind of sees this, like the whole sea is in chaos now because of this magic unbalance, and there's this huge wave and huge fishes, and he sees Ponyo running on the waves of the ocean, kind of crazy, but yeah. And then cutting to Sasuke walking out in the rain from the daycare, and he walks over to from his kindergarten to the daycare. That's what I meant. And he walks over there, and the elderly peeps or folk, they are, there's this all kinds of disturbance on the TV, and all of a sudden the power cuts out because of the storm. There's a power shortage, and they have to wait for the power to get on, and they don't really know how long it will take, but then the power comes back on. Sasuke and Lisa, they go home. Excuse me. But the waves have risen much higher now, and there's a full storm, so they try to hurry home. And while they are driving, there's this huge cliffside, and she drives kind of reckless because she just want to get home. And the water level is so high, almost up to the railing. So these kind of big fishes, magical fishes, they kind of ride next to the railing, and Ponyo is jumping on them and trying to like catch up with the car. And Sasuke sees that, and he's kind of like in confusion, what is happening? And Lisa doesn't see this because she's just driving. She just thinks it's just a big wave. And then Ponyo there's this like snag in the road or something, and she falls into the water. And Sasuke tells his mom to stop. And they look, and he said there was a girl that fell in the water. And they go out and look, and of course they can't see anything. And they get back in the car and they drive home. And basically what happens is that they get up on the driveway, and the wind is so strong, and it picks up his green bucket. That's his only trinket he has left of Ponyo. And it kind of blows down the driveway, and Ponyo arrives from the waves, and she picks up the bucket. And then Ponyo runs and hugs Sasuke. And Sasuke realizes that it's Ponyo, and Lisa does too, and Lisa is really confused, but they have to bring the kids in from the rain, so they get in the house, and there's this power shortage. And then Ponyo runs around because she has a lot of energy, and so they have these spare lights on, and they drink some tea with honey, I think, and Ponyo kind of really likes it. And then they're supposed to prep some food, but they need to get the diesel generator running, so they go to it's kind of one of those like boat propeller kind of thing. You have to drag a string to get the motor to spin so it gets on. But there's like something is caught in it. It doesn't really start, and Ponyo kind of points out that exactly where the things are stuck because she's magical, and she uses her magic to kind of turn on the diesel generator, and now they have power. So Lisa goes out and put up an antenna to kind of contact Koichi, I think it's called, Sasuke's dad, because he's out at sea and they're really worried about him. But there's no answer. There's like all sequences are high-pitched and this weird kind of thing, probably because of the magic, I guess. And then they sit down and Ponyo kind of tells Lisa about her mom and dad, and that her mom is the sea goddess, and she likes her really much, and she doesn't like her dad, this evil kind of wizard that never wants him to leave, which is this funny scene. Lisa kind of like, okay, sure, why not? And then they try to prep some food, and they're basically making noodles, and so they have to wait a bit, and then Lisa tells them not to look, and she puts in a ham in there and some like leek and a half egg, I think it's, and then she opens up the bowl and she gets like, she believes it's real magic or something, and she kind of eats the ham even though it's warm, and she gets sleepy, and then she passes out, and the sea calms down because now she is calm. And then cutting to Koichi at sea, and the ship has, for some reason he can't start, and he looks out in the distance, and his crewmates as well, and they think it's a city. Then they're not stars, but in fact all the ships are caught up in this huge wave for some weird reason. The moon is super huge. It's due to the magic imbalance of everything. And then Ponyo's mom arrives, and the engine starts, so now they can basically return. And they pray to the goddess, of course, and they are grateful. There's like this Japanese kind of kaiju or kanji okami kind of god situation. They pray for luck and stuff. It's a very Japanese thing. And anyway, then the wizard tries to enter the house where Ponyo is, because at this point Lisa has left for the daycare center, and to look at them and see know if they're okay and everything due to the storm and the the water that has been rising. So she goes off there, and the wizard tries to enter the house, but Ponyo, even though Ponyo is asleep, her magic is very potent, so it protects the house, and she can't enter. And then Ponyo's mom arrives and talks to the wizard and says that like it's her choice, and in the end she will have to make a choice if she wants to give up the magic and everything. But I think he's like overprotective, and that's kind of understandable because he has a lot of daughters, but he's protective because it's a child. I mean, would you like to give away your child to a young man at that age? No, obviously not. But anyway, so in the next morning they wake up, both Sasuke and Ponyo, and Lisa hasn't returned yet, even though she said she would. So they need a boat to sail, and Ponyo uses her magic to turn Sasuke's toy boat into a real boat, and it's like this small kind of boat, and you have like a candle underneath, and if you light the candle and you have some air in the tank, you can actually drive the thing. So she makes the boat big, and they kind of put it in the water, and they put on some supplies, and then they go out and look for Sasuke's mom, Lisa, and then they come across a couple on the way there, and it's this a young man and a young girl and a little baby, and they're just going to the nearest shelter basically, and the baby's kind of like grumpy, so Ponyo gives the baby some food, but the mom kind of takes the cup or the soup or whatever it is, and she says that she will make some food for the baby, and of course it's like breastfeeding in this case. So Ponyo kind of gives her a whole sandwich, also give her more milk. That's kind of this funny Japanese pun. And then they leave. But then the baby starts crying because it's sick, and you can see like the snot kind of pouring down the nose. So Ponyo runs on the water and jumps on the boat, and she rubs her face in the baby's face for some reason, and she kind of takes the sickness away, and the baby gets all kind of happy and cheerful and everything. And then later, Ponyo falls asleep, and her spells on the boat and everything start to decay, stop working. And Sasuke pulls her ashore, and he wakes her up, and then continue to walk. And then they find Lisa's car, and it's abandoned. And Sasuke starts to cry, and Ponyo goes to pick up the boat, and she comforts Sasuke, and they continue to walk on. And then cutting to the elder care, and the wizard is there, and the ladies are fine, and the goddess of the sea is also there, and she's talking to Ponyo's mom, Lisa. And then cutting back to Ponyo and Sasuke walking into a tunnel, and now Ponyo is turning more or less into a fish, and he kind of rushes through the tunnel, and he gets into the water and puts it back in a bucket. And then the wizard arrives, but Sasuke doesn't really trust the wizard because he took Ponyo from him before. So Ponyo sprays her father down with some water, and they run. And one of the elderly women, the one that didn't like Sasuke in the beginning, and Ponyo, Toki, they run along this kind of plank, kind of this bridge, and they jump, and the wizard's magic is trying to grab them all, but they run, and Toki kind of catches them as they run, and then the waves pull them down to the sea, and then Ponyo's sister kind of helps him out and brings him to the Lady of the Sea, and then Ponyo's mom kind of talks to Sasuke, and while Ponyo is there, and she asks Sasuke if he really likes Ponyo, and of course he says he does. He likes her a lot, even though if she's a fish, and he says yes. And then the sea goddess calls over Ponyo, and because she needs to talk to her, and she says that, are you willing to give up, because this is the main kind of gimmick to the whole thing, you can become a human girl at the age of 5, at the same age as Sasuke, if you give up all your powers, which he also agrees to. And then it's all settled, and she will return to normal, by the kiss of Sasuke. So what happens is they all kind of go back to their home and everything, and Ponyo kind of falls out of Sasuke's grip, and she kisses him on the lips, and she turns human, and that's the end of the movie. So what do I think of this movie? Well, it's fine. It's a children's movie, and it's fine for what it is. It's based on the H.C. Andersen's story of the Little Mermaid. I think he's Danish, I think. And it's like this story, if you tell it straight out, is very dark, but the Studio Ghibli format is very colorful, it's very bright. But I think it's a really good story. I definitely don't think that you should show this movie to your kids at a young age, but maybe when like before they turn teen or something, because it's like this kind of crossing over kind of understanding of things, I guess. But anyway, thanks for watching, and take care.